What's up, everybody? Happy New Year, and welcome back to Four Fingerless Gaming. I'm Casey, the Game Pt, and this is Rise of the Mechromancer, Part 8. I know it's been a while, but we've got a new schedule. Every first Thursday of the month, this is when this video is going to be coming out. It gives me a little bit more time to give some more in-depth content to what we're doing on the table and translate it to you. It'll usually be 3 or 4 sessions. It'll be the whole month, kind of if we skip a session in the middle there, but otherwise, let's get into it, shall we? Last we had left off, our party had just completed the Shudala Kaora trials and received their gifts of knowledge, as well as some magic items. The party was then given downtime after setting up their new bastions in the partially unlocked Saravari Manor. This video will be split into 4-ish weeks of that downtime that I gave them at the beginning of this month. The bastion turns will be the start, and we'll go character by character in the week there. Week 1 bastion turns. Snow installed a garden and a sanctuary for their 2 facilities, choosing the harvest option for rations in the garden, which grants 100 rations at the end of a bastion turn, and the craft option for the sanctuary for a holy symbol. Khan installed a smithy and a workshop for his 2 facilities, choosing the craft option to produce a plate armor and spyglass respectively. Sylvie chose a library and garden for hers, choosing the research option in the library, the topic being Eileen the Forsaken, to grant 3 questions to the DM, and the harvest option for the garden of poison herbs. Gideon went for a smithy and a garden, ordering the craft option in the smithy for a suit of plate and the harvest option in the garden for healing herbs. Ale fashioned a smithy with barracks for the manor, choosing the craft option for the smithy for 10 sets of 10 bullets, as well as the recruit option for the barracks so they could start gaining defenders. Callum installed a workshop and a storehouse, having them craft a ring worth 50 GP and the storehouse begin filling its shelves to sell the next week. Last but not least, Dara liked the choice of garden and arcane study as well, so giving the harvest order for bouquets in the garden and a book to be crafted in the study. Now that we've established the players' bastions, we can move into the first week of actual downtime, and from here on out, unless something changes, these are kind of the established turns. Craft, harvest, research, whatever it might be. A few things will change and I'll mention them as the weeks come up. The first week was a little bit odd. They had 4 days of downtime, and then the entire group, minus Ale, who was missing that week unfortunately, went vampire hunting. And then they came back day 7 at the end of that week. So, starting with Snow, they spent their first 4 days investigating the Temple of Tyr, pit and honor fighting to gain a rank number 30 in the Knuckle League, and doing some religion checks to gain piety, which is a pretty cool system if you haven't seen it. It's from Mythic Odysseys of Theros. Callum spent his first stretch helping Snow with the temple investigation, doing a little bit of rogue criming and some pit fights and betting as well. It's at this point that I gotta mention that over the course of this month of downtime, the group accrued roughly 500,000 gold. There is a point to this. Basically, what ended up happening is the cult that they were tracking down had infiltrated the gambling ring, the pit fighting arena as it would be, and because of that, they were raising caps of what you could bet. So they were 10-to-1 odds, in the sense of if they won, players could bet 1,000 gold at a 10-to-1 and win 10,000 gold. Bought a bunch of magic items. It's just kind of how it was. Everybody had fun. But the last week of the downtime, they got found out and abducted, so they couldn't gamble the last week. Anyway, Sylvie went to driver's ed to gain proficiency in vehicles so she could drive her new death driver, appointed to the new death dealers for their promotion. She also did some pit fighting to boost up her gold reserve. Dara spent her first 4 days also assisting Snow and Callum with their investigation before making some money via crime and betting on the fight pits. Gideon began his work on his first blueprint checks to devise a helper robot in his workshop. After spending the whole time locked away in the workshop, he managed to finish that blueprint for MGV1. Khan began his week by locating and freeing 4 of his centaur brethren who have been subjugated by the city and turned into barely sentient workhorses. After this, he did some pit fighting and an honor fight for rank number 14 and buying a few goodies with the earnings. Ale spent the week in downtime solo criming because he was gone for this week. I believe he was on vacation. Through Discord, gaining some gold and guild rep in the process, while the rest of the party went to fight vampires, and nearly died, for the sake of tracking down some reagents for crafting. Their victory ended the first week of downtime as they returned to the Bastion to begin week 2. Or so they thought, as Gideon got a transmission from his guild leader saying there was a mechanical disturbance in the undermarket near their location that was causing a large magical outburst. Gideon obliged and the group diverted to a long abandoned shed with a hatch in the back. This led them to a room filled with arcano-tech machines and monitors and a dull hum in the air, before Gideon discerned the noise was coming from all the screens. He checked the control panel and raised the power, just enough to grant the screen's light. And as he did, a set of glowing eyes and a curled mouth embedded within created a warped visage of a face. It began to speak to the party about how it had been watching and waiting and learning, but couldn't escape the vaults below. The group quickly put together that this was of some type of communication with the Mechromancer himself. Telecasting his presence through these monitors, he assured them that he wasn't powerful enough to harm them here, but his helper Gul'dan, the Keeper, had been working on his release. The party asked their questions, but were met with riddles and turns of phrases before the room lost power, and the party exited, returning to the manor above to begin their second week of downtime properly. Week 2 Bastion turns are the same, minus the fact that Callum was gone this week. Unless otherwise stated, same thing. Second week of downtime will start doing the same order. Snow spent their second week doing research, religious services for more piety, and more pit fighting that culminated in a rank 29 and 28 victory in quick succession. Sylvie was exceedingly busy doing several days worth of pit fights and training with Khan before finishing it out in driver's ed. Dara was equally busy investing time and money into Saravari Manor and to fully unlock it, granting them access to all the utilities therein. She also went and sold the group's loot from their Bastion turns and bought some more items while out shopping. Oh yeah, and some crime in the middle there while setting up the Rumor Mill speakeasy at the top of Saravari Manor. Gideon went full Artificer craft mode and not only began work on MGV1 but completed it. This was recognized by his connections at the Azut Guild, granting him the reputation to earn the blueprints for a Mizium apparatus, which he began working on immediately for the last day of the week. Khan spent the week training with the group to enhance their and his Mistwalker amulets, expediting the process immensely for those who participate. And last but not least for the week is Ale, who spent a majority of the week doing crime for guild rep or for credit at a magic item vendor while participating in some training with Khan in between. And that's the end of week 2. Week 3 of Bastion turns saw Dara and Khan both spend some gold to enlarge their facilities, Garden for Dara and Workshop for Khan, respectively. This was also a large milestone for the characters, as the majority had completed their 50 marks to enhance their Mistwalker amulets, granting them increased effects for their chosen class features. Once again, Snow, who this week spent roughly equal time doing religious services and honor fighting, granting them the rank 26 by the end. Oh, and a small mishap with the potion misc ability table. Sylvie doubled down all week, and the next week due to vacation, completing her driver's ed courses and gained vehicle proficiency so she could finally drive the Death Driver she was gifted a couple weeks ago. Dara spent this week taking full advantage of the new speakeasy, gaining access to rumors and otherwise missed information, in between shopping sprees and research endeavors, of course. Gideon, going back to full Artificer craft, spent the week in similar fashion to the last, completing his Mizium apparatus and moving on to the MGV2 for the last half of his days in the week. Khan, however, started his week out in a different way. Using his party and available resources, he made his way down to where the Centaur slaves had been kept until he had freed them from their mental shackles without scrying eyes. A powerful combination of Bardic Inspiration, Bless, and some other features led them to free Aranor and Braynor as the first two. Their immediate reaction was to kneel before Khan. Khan jumped back on his hind hooves. They then spoke and told him that his father, the Centaur King, had been slain the day their village had been burned down, making him the new Centaur King. The rest of this week was spent researching his newfound title and trying to figure out his father's domain and what his purpose was. And moving on, Ale once again, we have the Owlin discovering that he is indeed the only of his kind before doing some research himself between crime sprees and guild rep. So finally, we come to the end of week 3, the Bastion rewards / expansions associated, and the beginning of week 4 Bastion turns, which remained the same, adding the additional garden, enlargement, and workshop that were completed. Week 4, lightning round. Snow gained piety, did some shopping, and checked on the entrance to the vaults they found earlier in the campaign. As mentioned, Sylvie completed driver's ed and did some pit fighting. Dara did more research and rumor milling to learn more missed and possibly critical information. Gideon completed the MGV2 and gained some more guild rep. Khan spent the week creating his own spell out of his subclass combinations, and Ale did some more crime while helping out with the other party members' endeavors. And thus begins the last couple days of our downtime, and when the players move into the next part, the delve into the Mogushan vaults. I hope everybody's been enjoying the series. Thank you for waiting patiently and getting through this little bit chunkier video. That's where we ended our last 3 sessions. December, we'll reconvene tonight for the first session of 2025. Either way, I'm Casey, the Game Pt. At the end of the day, we'll always be here. Bye-bye, everybody.